All right, so guys, again, I'm sorry for not being there for the rest of this week, but this is our lesson for today. Go ahead and put the warm-up in your notes. At the end of this lesson, you are going to need to turn in these notes to make sure that you're writing them in your spiral notebook, and then you're going to take a picture on your iPad like we always do. Okay, so for the warm-up, it wants us to graph numbers on a number line, okay? Pretty standard. We've probably all seen this before, but this is just a refresher because we are going to be using that number line in today's lesson. All right, so for example 1, graph each number. We're going to take the number 3 and we're going to put it on our number line. On your page, I just want to see A3, and then I want you to plot it. So right here at 3, just put a dot. Boom, we're done. Okay, and then also I want us to put a dot at -5 on the second number line. So you're going to draw that same number line. You're going to put -5 and you're going to put a dot. Okay, if you need this video to be paused for any reason, okay, make sure that you speak up so that we can pause it and then you guys can copy down all the problems. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly, so you guys may need to ask for it to be paused. Okay. All right, make sure at the top of your page underneath that warm-up, you put that this is chapter 2, solving linear inequalities. And then you write that this is lesson 2.1, writing and graphing inequalities, okay? Now in chapter 1, we talked about equations, which is where we have an equal sign in the middle, okay? That means that the left side of the equation is equal to the right side of the equation. In this case, today we are talking about inequalities, and all of chapter 2 will be about these inequalities. This is where the left side of the equation is not equal to the right side. That one could be bigger, one could be smaller, one could be bigger or equal to, one could be smaller or equal to, okay? That is what an inequality is. All right, let's jump to it. So our objectives, again, don't copy down the objectives. Our objectives are to write linear inequalities, sketch the graphs of those linear inequalities, and then write linear inequalities from graphs, okay? We aren't going to necessarily learn about this in this lesson, but the meme says divides by a negative inequality and forgets to flip the sign. Okay, don't be that woman crying. There is a very important lesson in I believe it's 2.2, where we talk about operations in inequalities, and whenever you divide or multiply by a negative, you've got to make sure to flip your inequality sign. And we'll talk about that later, but it's very important. So you don't want to be that woman crying, okay? So when we get there, make sure that you remember that. All right, how does this apply to me? When am I ever going to use this? All right, so inequalities are great for setting up restrictions on a maximum or a minimum value. For example, when you are budgeting for a trip or figuring out your monthly expenses, you would set up an inequality so you don't spend more money than you have. Let's set one up together, okay? So an inequality is really good for finances, all right? So we're gonna talk about Mr. Yurko's budget. And for Mr. Yurko's budget, I have some things that I pay for every single month. Let's talk about them. Well, first is rent. I pay rent every single month. So let's put rent. And we're gonna add all my expenses on the left side. Actually, let's put those in red because they're expenses. And then we'll put the right side in blue because that'll be what I make, okay? So rent, okay? We're gonna add, I pay for Netflix. What else do I pay for? I pay for Hulu. What else do I pay for? Oh, I pay for water, internet. Let's see. And we'll just put ... because there's a few other things that I pay for, okay? Now, all of these expenses have to be less than what I make. The money that I make, okay? So we'll label this profit. Okay? Now guys, this whole typed up portion, don't need to copy down. I would like to see this portion down below, this inequality of my budget in your notes, okay? Now, all of these things have to be less than. Why? Because if they were greater than my profit, I would be in the red, okay? I would no longer be making money per month, and I could never sustain that for too long. I would eventually run out of money, and I would have to, I don't know, find another job or increase this portion or decrease this portion in order to satisfy this inequality, okay? Now, inequalities at their most basic level are pretty simple, right? But they can get more complicated And here's a list of professions that use some inequalities. They could range from the most basic, like the one that I just did for calculating a budget, or they could be like very intense, like for a computer programmer. But here's a list of different professions that use inequalities. So regardless of what profession you go into, for the most part, you're gonna see inequalities at some point. Okay, so make sure that like you guys understand them, and you can almost apply them like right after this lesson to whatever you guys are doing. You can apply them to some of the stuff in your life. Okay, cool beans. Inequality symbols. So we've got 4 inequality symbols. Okay, make sure you copy down this chart. The first one is the less than sign. Okay, that is just a caret that opens, or like an arrow kind of head that points, it opens to the right, and it's saying that whatever's on this side of the inequality is bigger, and whatever's on the other side of the inequality is smaller. Oops, that's right, small. Okay, we've got a big side and a small side. Now, the greater than symbol, okay, this one means that whatever's on the left side is bigger than whatever's on the right side. The less than or equal to symbol, whatever's on the right side, is greater than, or it could be equal to whatever's on the left. So that includes the actual value on the left. And then the greater than or equal to symbol, which is this last one, okay? Make sure you get this chart copied down into your notes with the key phrases and the symbols. Writing inequality. So our first example that you guys are going to see on your homework is we're going to write a sentence as each of these, well, we're going to write each sentence as an inequality. So we're going to read this literally from left to right, and we're just going to copy it down into an actual math expression as an inequality, okay? So the very first thing, remember W, underline W. So we're going to put W minus 3.5. Minus 3.5. We just put subtraction and a 3.5. That's pretty obvious. Is less than or equal to. This is the big boy right here. Is less than or equal to. So this has to be less than or equal to. See how it's opening up? Your symbol will always open up to the side that's greater, to -2. And then we're just going to put -2 on the right side. Okay? W minus 3.5 is less than or equal to -2. We're done. Okay? You don't even need to solve it. We're just writing an inequality for the sentence. 3 is less than the number n plus 5. Okay? 3, so write down 3, is less than a number, okay? There's no equal to here. It only says less than. A number n, so n plus 5, plus 5. Simple. 0, so we're going to put 0, is greater than, so we're going to put the greater than symbol, or equal to, so we have to put that bar underneath, twice a number x. Let's think about that. How would we make twice a number x? You would just multiply by 2, so it would be 2 times x, and then plus 1. Now, you probably want to write it as 0 is greater than or equal to 2x plus 1, just because this multiplication symbol doesn't necessarily need to be there. When you have a number next to a variable, it just means multiply automatically, okay? All right, checking our solution. So tell whether -4 is a solution for each inequality. Just like we did for equations, a solution is anything where when you plug it into your variable, it satisfies the inequality, okay? So the inequality is going to hold for anything that is a solution. So for these two problems, I'm going to do the first in red, and the second one I'll do in blue, okay? So for A, we've got x plus 8 is less than -3. So in this case, we're going to take this -4 and we're going to plug it in wherever we see an x. So we've got -4 plus 8 should be less than -3. Now we're going to see if this inequality holds, okay? We've got -4 plus 8. That's a negative and a positive being added. So we're going to subtract them because they're different signs. So it's going to be 8 minus 4, which is just 4, okay? If you had $8 and you bought something that was $4, you would have $4 remaining. And that is less than -3. 3. Is this a true statement? Is 4 less than negative 3? No, okay? So this is negative 4 is not a solution. Okay, let's check out B. B, we've got negative 4.5 times negative 4 is greater than negative 21. All right, so for B, instead of adding 8 now, we are multiplying that negative 4 by negative 4.5. And when we do that, we're going to get negative 4, or I'm sorry, let's just do 4 times negative 4. I'm sorry, 4.5 times 4. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 4 is 16. You add 2 to that, you get 18. And our decimal goes one space over because our decimal was one space over to begin with, okay? All right, so we got 18 on the left. It's positive 18 because it's two negatives being multiplied by each other. Remember, a negative times a negative is going to give us a positive. Is 18 bigger than negative 21? 18 is indeed bigger than negative 21. It lies to the right of negative 21 on the number line. So this one works. So we would say negative 4 is a solution to the inequality, okay? So whenever you're finding out whether something is a solution, just plug it in and see if the inequality holds. If it does, we're good. If it doesn't, it's not a solution. Cool. We're gonna graph each inequality. So now we've got 3 inequalities and we're gonna graph them, okay? First thing that I want you to do is I want you to copy down all 3 of these. Y is less than or equal to negative 3. 2 is less than x, and x is greater than 0. And I want you to circle each of the inequality symbols, and down below it, write closed for the first one, open for the second, and open for the third, okay? That means wherever we're putting a dot, for the first example, it's gonna be a closed dot. For the second example, it's gonna be an open dot. And for the third example, it's gonna be an open dot, okay? The reason it's closed versus open is because of that equal sign down below. So for A, notice how it says less than or equal to. For B, notice how it says less than only. And for C, notice how it says greater than only. Whenever you have the equal to sign down below it, it's going to be a closed dot. So let's see it in action. So Y, whatever Y could possibly be, is going to be represented by the shaded region in our number line, okay? So Y is less than or equal to negative 3. Put a dot at negative 3 and make it a closed dot, so shade it all the way in. And now we want to figure out what values are less than negative 3. Well, we're going to have to go this way, to the left, because negative 4 is less than negative 3, negative 5 is less than negative 3, and negative 6 is less than negative 3. And we're shading this way, to the left. So make sure you shade in the whole thing. Okay, so any value for Y, if we plugged in negative 6, would negative 6 be less than or equal to negative 3? Yep, that holds. Anything not shaded, so on the right, for example, 3, is 3 less than or equal to negative 3? It should not work, and it absolutely does not, okay? So anything shaded should work in our inequality. It should be a solution. Anything on the other side that's not shaded should not work as a solution, okay? All right, one little trick, guys. Let's take a look at which way this is pointing. Do you notice how it's pointing to the left? So we're going to shade to the left. This only works when our variable's on the left side, okay? So for B, do you see how it's pointing to the left? But where's our variable? Our variable's on the right. So you can always reorder it. If you're going to flip these two, you've got to flip the sign. So x, let's say, is greater than 2. Instead of 2 is less than x, okay? We're just flipping the entire inequality around. Now, let's find 2, and let's put an open circle. Oops, that was 3. Here's 2, put an open circle. And now, x is anything that's bigger than 2. X is anything that's bigger than 2. So we're going to shade to the right, okay? Or you can think about it as this being your arrowhead. It's pointing to the right, so you're going to shade to the right, okay? Make sure your variable's on the left side if you're going to use that method. So we've shaded this. So would 5 work? Is 5 bigger than 2? Yes, so it's part of our shaded region. It should work. Is -4 gonna work? Is -4 bigger than 2? No, it should not work. It's not part of our shaded region, okay? And let's check out C. C is probably the easiest one. We're gonna put an open circle at 0. And we're gonna shade everything that's bigger. 1 is bigger than 0, 2 is bigger than 0, 3 is bigger than 0, but nothing to the left, any of the negatives are not bigger than 0. All right, using the 3 examples that we just used, so make sure that you guys are referring back to your notes. And that's it, peeps. Here's your homework. All of these problems can be solved. Your homework is due tomorrow, guys. If you have questions, just shoot me an email. I'll probably be able to respond tonight. But I look forward to seeing you guys back on Monday. Again, guys, this is the beginning of chapter 2. This stuff is not going to be on your test, okay? Everything from chapter 1 will be on your test, and that review video will be available on Friday, going over all of that review study guide. So make sure that you guys are working on that, having it completed by Friday. Friday, the video will be released, and you guys can check all of your work. If you got any of them wrong, you can watch the video and see how I do all those problems on the study guide. And then, yeah, if you guys have any questions, just shoot me an email. But again, your test is on Tuesday next week, because there's no school on Monday. All right, guys, have a great day. I miss you guys, and I'll see you back on Monday. Tuesday. Jeez.